Welcome to Lynn's Warriors. Today, we are so honored to welcome Claire Yost, a United States Army veteran, a former drill sergeant, physical therapy assistant, victim advocate. I'm putting that in capital letters, everybody, an emerging public policy leader. I'm putting all of this actually in capital letters. Claire dedicated more than a decade of her life to serving our nation. I mean, really, Claire, thank you for that. I can't thank you enough for that, but we'll get into that in a minute. During Claire's military career, she became a licensed sexual assault prevention and response victim advocate, helping survivors navigate trauma, access resources, and find their voices. Her work identifying shortcomings within the Army's sexual harassment, assault response, and prevention program led her to propose policy reforms directly to the Sergeant Major of the Army, ultimately earning an invitation to work with policy leaders at the Pentagon. So impressive, Claire. Today, Claire is going to bring that same passion to us right here in the Warriors, and she's going to talk about her service. We're going to talk about public policy. Everybody, you know I love public policy. You know that. And we're going to talk about that. She's a recent graduate of the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth Master of Public Policy program, and a New York State Senate fellow. Claire believes that policy can be one of the most powerful tools for protecting people, advancing justice, and creating lasting change. Claire, I'm going to say it again. First and foremost, thank you for your service to our nation. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. Thank you for being a warrior. Let's get into it. And I'm going to have all your information for our warriors in the body of the video because you are all over that TikTok. So I'm going to have the link there for everybody, and they can talk and sing and dance with you, whatever you're doing on the TikTok, because you're doing a lot. I looked before, you're doing a lot, but let's jump right in. Claire, welcome. Here you are on the Warriors, where you belong.
Yes, I'm so excited. I really do believe it was destiny that we met. Like that was probably one of the
crazy.
It was like one of the most seamless and just real meetings I've had, because it's nice to speak with someone who's as passionate about, helping people regain their power and their voice. And so thank you for your service as well, because what you're doing is equally, if not more important. But you said it awesome. Like, what an awesome intro. I feel pretty cool right now, but like you said, my name is Claire Yost.
Claire, you are so cool. You are so cool.
No, then I'm saved, the birds of a feather over here, so, I'm from the tiny town of Dublin, Virginia, just south of Roanoke. So this is my first time in New York is started in September when I started working for the New York State Senate through the Legislative Fellow Program. So I'm loving it. I'm loving my time up here in New York. And you summarized it so well. Like you said, I just left the Army. So up until recently, I was more known as Staff Sergeant Yost than Claire Yost. I served 10 and a half years active duty, a year in the U.S. Army Reserves, and I had many titles during that time. I mean, anyone who's a veteran can tell you, yeah, sure, you have one job. So my main job was physical therapy, but you have so many jobs on top of that, and some of them are volunteers positions, but a lot of them are voluntold. So I was a 6-8 Foxtrot physical therapy assistant. Like you said, I was a drill sergeant. My last assignment on active duty, I was on the battle staff operations team for the 44th Medical Brigade, where I planned medical deployment support operations, which sounds way cooler than it was. It was mostly a lot of micromanaging and adult babysitting, but it was really rewarding and fun.
Sounds good, Claire. It sounds good.
Yeah, but like you said, victim advocate, that is definitely the highlight of my career. It is what sparked my love for advocacy. I served as a victim advocate for 6 of my 11 and a half years in the service. I actually had to get three or four waivers to do it because I wasn't a high enough rank. So I had to get a waiver to go through the Navy's program, because the Navy would let lower ranking people become a victim advocate. So I had to get a waiver from the Army so I could go play with the Navy for a bit. I had to get a waiver from the Navy to be like, yeah, come on, Army. So I went through the school. I got licensed as a victim advocate. Then I had to get a waiver from my unit to serve as a victim advocate. And then the final waiver, which is kind of the coolest waiver, I had to get a waiver from the Pentagon, where I worked at the time, to serve as the victim advocate for the Department of Defense. And it was a process and lots of paperwork and waivers, as I said, but
you did definitely, but you did it. But you did it. So that's That's
Yeah,
that's what warriors do. They keep going,
that's right.
no matter what that path is, how impossible,
That's right.
to make it happen. But you know what I want to ask you?
Mhm.
What made you want to, join the army? Get involved in this as a young woman, and
Yeah.
what were you thinking at the time?
Wow. Yeah. So both my parents were in the Air Force. So I say that I joined the Army as my last act of like defiance, because they were a little upset I didn't join the Air Force, but still supportive. But I think I always wanted to join the military. I had a very, very unique career. I mean, my first duty station was the Pentagon.
I mean,
So
come
it's
on
just,
now. Yeah.
I know, right? I thought it was a joke when they told me that. I was like, "What do you mean, like the Pentagon?" I'm like, "Wow, that was like a dumb thing to say." Like there's another one, or the hexagon. You're not sending me the hexagon, are you?
They're like, yeah,
Um,
that hexacom
yeah,
pentagon. Yeah.
right. So maybe the quadrilateral for my next assignment. But yeah, I think I just always wanted to join because both my parents were, and so I got my bachelor's of science degree before I joined, which is like the opposite of what people usually do. So I got my bachelor's in athletic training, and I left for the army 6 months later. And so I don't know. I think it just felt like what I was supposed to do. Like my parents didn't like pressure me to do it. They are supportive of, everything and anything I do. But it was definitely a very rough experience as a woman, and rewarding as well too. Like I'm a better person for my time in, but definitely challenging in the sense of like, I mean, misogyny runs rampant there. So I had to learn very quickly to combat that through any means I could. I mean, sometimes the best thing was just like giving a quick retort back, but then I learned at a very young stage of my career that policy is not just a weapon, but armor as well. So my love for policy started super young in my career when I realized, whoa, this is here to like protect me too. And that's what kind of launched my whole journey into becoming a victim advocate as well, was because I wanted to be able to protect myself as well as the people I saw to the left and right having issues and not knowing what to do, or being taken advantage of. And I was like, I could be somebody that could help, and that's what kind of launched all of that.
I don't know. I'm just going to say God bless you because okay, I'm going to leave it at that for a minute. Now, here's a question you don't have to answer, but it just popped into my head. If you had a daughter right now and she
Yeah,
said, I'm going to join the military,
yeah.
what would you say to her?
So it's funny. I had a childhood friend of mine recently asked me this on behalf of her daughter,
Oh,
and
interesting.
I know. So it's like the timing is it is interesting, but it's probably a question a lot of people have. I'm torn. I left because I thought I could be a better, not thought, I knew I could no longer effectively help people the way that I wanted to help people while being tied to the uniform. And I knew I could be a more effective fighting tool for the people of this nation and for the world if I wasn't confined to the things that service members are confined to, like limited freedom of speech and, not being able to really publicly advocate and stand up for, although I always, that's a whole other thing. I always made sure to stand up for against anyone and anything. It's a miracle I made it out of the military unscathed, but because there was never a moment I held my tongue if it meant, speaking out against an injustice. But I think I would tell them, like, you got to really sit down and think, like, tackle it from like two viewpoints. One, what is the purpose of the military? Like, make it as objective as possible. What is the military's purpose? It's to win and defend the nation's wars. Objectively, like, just think of it like that. Now, what do you want from the military? And I would never discourage anyone from for any reason of joining. I mean, I can't say the same of other service members. Like people are so judgy and like would get mad when soldiers would be like, "Well, I only joined for free college." Okay, that's a great reason. Like that is a great reason. It shouldn't be like that. Like I think college should be free in general, but that's a whole other tangent. But I think you would have to really sit down and think about why is it that you want to join and understand that like things are chaotic right now. People are leaving in droves from the military because we realize that for one, we can't do anything to help or stop this while in. And two, we're not safe if we stay in. I mean, I got death threats all the time, even before everything was metaphorically on fire in this nation, and I can't imagine what it's like now. So I don't know. I don't want to give a definite answer because I think we need good people in still. And that was a huge part of my debate with myself as to whether I should leave the military or not. I was like, I know I can make a difference at arm's length. And I know when I'm around, people are at least safe within that space. And maybe that's not the case when I leave, but I felt as if I was leaving people in danger, or without a resource, when I left. So I would just encourage any person, a specific, especially those with daughters, who want to join, really sit down. You need to understand the risk, the heightened risk as well for women from being in the military at a time where everything is just extra terrible for women. Like you need to know what you're getting into. And I don't want to say no because it's like we need
Yeah, I
people to
get
go
it.
in. I don't want anyone to get
No,
bullied out of.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything. I was just,
Yeah,
as you
yeah,
were
yeah.
talking, no, as you were talking, it just, because that was not even a question I wrote
Oh,
down or
that's
thought
a great
about.
question. Yeah,
But I'm
yeah,
just, every day as a civilian, whatever you want to call me,
yeah,
public,
yeah,
right? We've got these wars or whatever I don't even know what they're called, but
yeah. It's a
I guess,
lot.
and it's like, and I know I'm thinking about a young person, I'll
Yeah,
be kind of vague, that did join, just to get away from
yeah,
his environment and signed up and got a bonus. I think it was
yeah,
last year, or there was some kind of
yeah,
bonus going on.
yeah.
And when he was on leave, and I happened to be by his friend's house when he came over one night, he
Mhm.
he was talking about, like, oh, everybody's hungry, like the food they're feeding us on these ships. They
Yeah,
was deployed on some ship or something like that.
yeah, yeah.
And
I saw
I'm
another
like,
story about
really?
that.
I'm like, well, we got to feed our people. I mean, I'm digressing a little bit, but I was
Yeah,
like even amazed at that.
yeah.
He was describing, and it's not that he was complaining, but he's like, people
No,
are
yeah.
like hungry.
They're
And
not
I'm like,
taken
what?
care of. And that sparked, I have a better answer as well. And so this is ultimately where I decided to leave the military is you have to realize that no matter who you are, what your political leaning is, whether you consider yourself an ally, whether you consider yourself someone who is an advocate, whoever you are, that doesn't matter when the uniform is on. So you need to ask yourself, are you okay with standing for what the military is standing for? Because just because you speak out and say, hey, this is wrong, this shouldn't be how it is, when you have that uniform on, that's what you're representing. You could preach all day that you're an advocate, but if you are staying in, you are indirectly supporting what is happening. And I think that's ultimately why I left. I was like, I want to help
That's a
make.
tough one. That's a tough one.
Yeah, yeah, it is tough. So, and like, I don't know, like, I don't regret joining the military. Definitely not. It was like, I mean, they paid for my school. They're going to pay for law school. Um, and I think I had more positive experiences than negative, and I know I made a difference, which is like what means the most to me because my self-worth is deeply tied to helping others. So,
Yeah, but
yeah,
also, Claire, when you just mentioned like law school, we need you wherever you go with that,
yeah,
to represent victims, women. If I'm not
yeah.
forcing that on you, but if that's where you're going to go,
Oh
because
yeah, oh yeah,
we have such a lack of that going
yeah,
on that we need, right? And that's increasing all the time. And
yeah.
and also, I feel like, well, I'm a lot older than you are, but like we really have to mentor our younger women and girls. Like I really
Yes,
feel like
yeah,
we have a duty as we move up, like every
yeah,
age, like, like to do that. Like I'm working very hard on really trying to do that because after all, I'm on the back nine, as we say.
yeah,
But you're really just starting in this, right?
yeah.
And then we work with teen girls, 12, 13, 14, 15, that they could have a good career. I
Yeah,
think it's our duty to really kind of guide them and share what we've learned.
yeah,
They don't have to go through that, and help them
yeah,
figure out, maybe, right? Cut through some of this, figure
yeah.
out that they can have a better.
Keep the trail blazing,
That's what I'm
like,
trying to say.
yeah, no, that's
And,
awesome.
and it's so easy. You may be a tough warrior. I may be a tough warrior, But remember, a lot of people can't handle a lot of this stuff and
Yeah.
they fold. And that's what makes me sad. They just would rather close their eyes and not address it,
Yeah.
not look at it. And that's where all the junk creeps in, when nobody's looking.
Yeah.
So I feel like we have to be cheerleaders a little bit and really make it
Yeah,
part of our lives to encourage them.
definitely.
Now I'm totally throwing this at you, but because I'm thinking now of a million things,
No,
but
please.
I was
Yeah.
no, I was reading a couple of times. Now, wait, you consider yourself like lethal on paper. You're
Yeah.
lethal. Okay, describe. I like that. Sounds like the name of a movie or something or a TV
Right.
show. No, wait, I was corrected recently. They're called streaming shows now, not TV shows.
Oh,
Streaming content.
interesting. Okay,
But
that's new to me too, but
good to know with the Hulus and the Amazons and the Apples, is going to be
yeah,
streaming, not TV.
that makes
Streaming.
sense. Okay, all right.
But anyway, that that's a good title for a show. But anyway,
Yeah.
describe that for us. Now, how did that come about? And talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, the military is a great place to learn about the value of paperwork. And I'm sure if there are any veterans or service members watching, they're laughing because even if they hate paperwork, they know it's true. Paperwork is the only thing that makes anything move in the military, and it's like in abundance, like forests worth of paper. And so what I learned quickly, like I mentioned earlier, is like that policy is a weapon and it's a shield too to help you and to help others. And so, I mean, my whole career, like I said, I'm surprised I came out unscathed, meaning never demoted, never in serious trouble, never punished for anything really, because I always stood up any chance that I was around or I heard of an injustice. I don't care who the person was. I didn't care what their rank was. I didn't care if they like descended from the heavens themselves, if they were saying something incorrect and wrong. And I knew the right thing to do was to stand up because not only as someone who's an empath and very passionate about like advocacy, it also says it on paper that whoa, 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 this is not what we're supposed to be doing here. So I knew that with that on my side, it didn't
Yeah.
matter who I was going against. I mean, it felt like I was going against the whole army at several times. But I came out unscathed in every battle I found myself in because there was nothing more powerful than paper, than policy. And I used that to help as many people as I could. And like you said, in like creating those who need to take our torch someday, I tried to drill that into all of my soldiers and to anyone I taught during my time as a victim advocate that like, hey, like you need to know how to use this policy. You need to know it exists for one, because I mean, don't even get me started on that. I'm sure you relate, but you need to know how to be able to use it to not just protect others, but to protect yourself too. And so that's what I mean when I say lethal on paper is that, I mean, I plan on wherever I find myself next coming in hot. And that's kind of been my MO my whole life. I'm very unwavering in in my fight for helping other people, and I'll put it on paper, and then I'll be unstoppable at that point.
I don't know what to say. You'll have the proof.
And
You'll have
my dog had to add on there.
Okay, well, we love dogs and children right here,
Me
so it's
too,
like,
yeah,
no, whatever goes. That's,
yeah,
sometimes I'm in the middle of New York City. Sometimes you hear fire engines, sometimes you
right,
hear
yeah, it's
all
noisy
kinds
there.
of noises by the Hudson River, the cruise ship. Sometimes when they're pulling out, they pull the horns, the whole place
Oh
shakes.
yeah,
So it's like,
so much
whatever.
noise.
It's all
Right.
good. No, but it's all good. Okay, now explain exactly. Of course, you touched upon it. Kind
Mhm.
of self-explanatory, your role. Did women come to you in the army and they'd be like, "Hey, I was sexually harassed," or "Hey, I was demoted because I didn't service somebody," or tell us that process a little bit,
Yeah,
because frankly, I know a lot of vets. I speak to a lot of vets, mostly men, though. Interesting, mostly
yeah,
men. That's why I'm so excited to have you.
yeah,
My sister here. Well, come on. Um, we don't talk about these issues, right?
right.
I haven't
Yeah.
spoken about these issues and I haven't heard about these issues. So walk us through that a little bit, what
Yeah.
that looks like.
Yeah, so like and it's funny you mentioned that because for years, I'm not even for years, I'm sure it's still a thing. I don't think people understand what victim advocates do. So I always, whatever training I did, because I had to conduct biannual trainings and then, like every now and then I have to do remedial trainings and such, and we can touch on that later. But I would make sure to like very briefly and simply explain what I do. And so I would toy with some metaphors and analogies. So I would
Mhm.
say like victim advocates are like the bodyguards to your peace, or like the navigator or security detail to like help walk you through the process. And then if for my sports fans, I'd throw in like we're like the offensive linemen whose job is to help get the victim forward, and we take some hits along the way so that they can focus on healing or scoring a touchdown or whatever sports metaphor you want to insert. So because victims, they deal with police, they deal with lawyers,
Yeah.
hospitals, in the military, you have chains of command, social workers, so much paperwork. So my job as a victim advocate was to help manage that load. So I would go with them to appointments. Well, I guess we'll rewind and start at the beginning. So someone comes to me, they're like, I need to talk to you. I always knew what that meant. I always knew what it meant when someone's like, I need to talk to you. So I'd be like, okay. So I take them to my office, and they tell me, hey, I've been raped or I've been sexually assaulted. And I would always start with like, okay, do you want to talk about it? Like, what do you want to do? Sometimes we would just sit there in silence if that's what they wanted. And almost every single complaint I would get started off as what is called a restricted report. So to keep it simple, you have restricted, unrestricted. Restricted meant that it is a limited number of people who know this information. So usually it's just the victim and me as the victim advocate. So, and that it stops there. It's just to get it on paper so that later they can make it unrestricted if they need to, but you obviously can't go the other way. So most times they were coming just to document it. And
Mhm.
they'd be like, I don't want to do anything. I just want to document. I'm like, okay. So I would take in all their information. I'd write a report on it. I'd send it. The only other person who would get that report would be the person I reported to for my licensure, and they would document on their ends, and that was kind of it from there. And they would still, they could still get some services, but obviously if it was a restricted report,
Yeah.
is their choosing, um, no investigation. The perpetrator, the accused at this point probably doesn't even know that there's been a report filed against them. And it's mostly just to like get documentation down. Now, if they wanted to go unrestricted, that's when that's like game time. That's like, all right, we're like, get the choppers rolling. An investigation is going to get started. Within 24 hours, it's required that the accused be removed from the premises of where the victim works, unless they work, and this is again military policy,
Mhm.
unless they work off post, and then for some reason it doesn't cover that, and you have to go get a civilian protective order instead. But so that is when it starts getting real crazy. So when it's restricted, not a lot going on. I'm there for just like moral support to help them navigate whether they want to, um, like what their reporting options were. I wasn't allowed to like give them opinions. So, but unrestricted, like we're going in hot. We're with the investigations getting launched. That's when like CID, the Criminal Investigation Department, gets involved. All the chains of command are notified, and so the very tiring and exhausting process begins. And that is where my real work as a victim advocate comes into play. Because earlier
Mhm.
I mentioned we're like the bodyguards to their peace. So that means if I'm with a victim and we have to go talk to CID to go give an interview because they lost your paperwork, which always happens. So now it means you have to do the interview again. I could be like, hey, are you okay to do this today? Like, do
Yeah.
you have the energy? And if they're like, I can't, I'd be like, nope, we're not doing that. And so I had to learn really quickly to stand up to very high ranking people and be like, yeah, sorry, I don't give a fuck that you need this done today. They don't want to do it today. They
Yeah.
can't, like, they cannot. So I would go with them to those appointments. I'd go with them to any civilian court cases because sometimes it would overlap into the civilian world. Or, like I said, if you need a civilian protection order on top of your military protection order. And then I was just there as like a resource for them to vent
Yeah.
to talk to connect them with other resources, and basically on call for 24/7. And it's an exhausting process. It's not fast. I think people think it's a quick process, but like cases take years. The longest case that I was on was 5 years, and that was my own when I was a victim. And we were on it for 5 years. There were 8 of
Wow.
us. who were victims. And by the time the court date finally came around, there's only two of us because everyone pulled out from the case because it was like such an exhausting process.
And it's
And
so traumatic. I mean, the
yeah,
trauma
yeah,
that
it
comes along with that.
it is, yeah. And one of the things I tried to change before I left is so most people in the military, well, the army, you're only stationed somewhere for about 2 years, maybe 3 years, and then you move somewhere else. And
Mhm.
if you're a victim of sexual assault and your victim advocate is on orders and they move, they have to assign you a new one. And so I worked,
Oh,
and I know locally we did get an exception to policy for things where I could remain the victim advocate for victims who were moving away and vice versa. But that wasn't like set in stone. So it's like, man, now like for my case, for example, that where I was the victim, I was just so exhausted with it. Plus, like balancing being a victim advocate on the side, I was like, I'm just going to be my own victim advocate. I know the policies and whatnot, but um, I mean, 5 years, that's a long time to wait. So I don't remember the stats at this point, but I tallied it up to bring it up in my impact statement. It was something like I had, I think, 15 or 20 even victim advocates assigned that rotated through.
wow.
I had my whole legal team changed about 5 times. I had to brief. I should have pulled it up. I had like all the stats of all the people I had to brief over those 5 years, because like the other part of this for the military is, say like you get to go to school for like when I went to the drill sergeant academy, right? You're temporarily leaving to go to this school to get trained, and then you come back to your unit and then whatever happens after that. But if you are in an active case where you're a victim, you have to now, once you get to this place to go get training done, go meet with the post commander to talk with them about it's for your safety, I get it, but it's like to inform them, hey, I'm a victim of sexual assault. This is the person who sexually assaulted me. Here's my military protective order. They're not allowed to be on base where I am. So if they're here, they have to leave. And if they try to get here, you need to flag them at the gate. And it's like so exhausting because
Yeah.
you travel a lot in the military. You go to trainings all over. That means you have to, everywhere you go, do this, unless you want to waive it. And then you're putting yourself in danger. So it's really an exhausting process. A lot has changed for the better. I did get to help make some of those changes. Um, and it's just a program that needs constant reevaluation and reform.
I mean, it sounds like it's so counterproductive. We'll get into some of the
Yeah,
changes. I mean, I'm so happy you were there, Claire. Like, it
yeah,
just seems like, because I know when you say, okay, you have to start, I'll just break it down very easily. Like, start with a
yeah,
new person all over again and explain your
yeah,
story all over again. And
yep,
then maybe in explaining it the 10th time, you might have inconsistencies because you're explaining it so many
yep.
times and then they
They
hold
like
that
that.
against you. No,
Yep,
all that stuff. So that is why most just victims will drop
yeah,
out of things. They just,
yeah,
it's always like the victim's fault and they got the story wrong and they're just
right,
exhausted. But let me go back on something you said.
yeah,
What the percent is there a percentage or a ratio or a study done? What if somebody has, for instance, like an affair gone wrong and they go to
yeah,
get like this revenge or something, and so
yeah,
they file like an unrestricted report right away, so that
yeah.
person then gets like taken off base or something like right away. There's no, is that how that works? And what did that happen? Were there I would imagine there have to be cases of people also got accused of some things that maybe they didn't do them.
This is actually one of my favorite questions, and I
Oh,
would get
really?
this. Yeah, it is, and I would get this
I
all the
just thought of
time
that
when
one
I would.
too when I was talking. I just thought of
Yeah,
that.
no, no, it's great. I had it on my list of things I want to make sure to bring up because I would get this question all the time in the realm of like false complaints. But let me address your first question first. So, the one good thing about I mean, there's several good things, but the Army's SHARP program is what it's called, the Sexual Harassment Assault Response and Prevention Program. The SHARP program is set up to believe and support the victim, and I love that. I think that's something that the civilian world needs to implement because it really is a system that's like, yep, like we're here, we believe you, at least in the beginning, and like it's really set up to support and believe victims when they report. So if someone is like Well, I mean, honestly, I'll talk about mine. So when I filed my sharp complaint against my first supervisor, I met with the SARC is what the position's called. So that's the Sexual Assault Response Coordinator, I believe that's what it stands for. That's like the boss of the victim advocate. So that's who you report to for any kind of stuff. So she actually came down to this is when I had just become a victim advocate. She came down to meet with me about a training or something we were planning, and I slipped a note in her bag because I didn't want to tell her. I was for some reason scared that it would, by me being sexually assaulted, it would ruin my license. I don't know. Like, you think crazy things when like trauma's going on, but I was like, oh my God, how can I be a victim advocate if I've been sexually assaulted? Crazy thing to think, but I was panicking because I again had at the forefront of my mind wanted to be able to help people, and if that meant sacrificing getting my own justice, that's what my brain was like processing. So I put the note in her bag. I was like, hey, I've been sexually assaulted. And she didn't see the note until she got about 45 minutes away. She calls me. She's like, I'm coming back. I'm coming to talk to you in person. This is definitely an in-person thing. So we talk about it, and she was like, okay. She's like, I mean, you just got your license. Like, I'm going to ask, do you want to file a complaint? And I was like, yeah, I do, especially because I worked in a patient care environment where we learned later that this same piece of shit rapist had raped patients of ours.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, and so it's like, I was like, at first I was like, I mean, and I would see this for the victims I help too. You like downplay it in your head. You're like, oh, am I making a big deal of this? You're like, no, this is fucked up. And I was like, oh my God.
Claire, I
Also,
hear it
like,
all the time. It makes me sick to my
yeah,
stomach. They
yeah,
all the women, teenage girls, young women,
yeah,
women blame themselves. They try to
yeah,
rationalize, oh, I
yeah,
had 2 drinks.
yeah,
Oh, I
right.
did stop by his apartment because he said
Yeah,
he wanted to change his shirt. Like, they're always
yeah,
trying to come up with,
yeah,
right. Okay,
right.
go ahead. I just had to say
Yeah, no,
that.
no, it's good. And so what, when I was like, yep, we're doing it, we're filing an unrestricted report. So remember, unrestricted means game time. We're launching an investigation. He was removed within hours. So I was taken away somewhere like safe, and then he was removed. So they make sure the victim is safe somewhere first, which is all in the formal paperwork. I think that's actually the Navy who wrote that. So shout out Navy. They make sure the victim's safe before they remove
Yeah,
the
good.
accused. And so they take me away. I'm like hiding in this office in the Pentagon. And because he was a huge dude, like I'm tall, I'm 5'9", he's like 6 foot, like 3 or something, and like big dude. So they take him, escort him out. Um, and then they pulled all of his credentials and like all of his like badge access and stuff, so he couldn't like come back in. And then I had to get a civilian protective order as well against him and his wife, actually. um, because your military protective order only protects you on military installations, which is like a stupid loophole that they should fix. Where I'll fix it. Just give me 3 years to finish law school, and then I'll fix it. It's fine. Um,
Just
but
just add that
so
to your list. Add it to your list.
Right, just add it to my list. I do have a running list on my phone of things I want to fix and change, just like in general. And I luckily got to knock some off my list recently because I'm, like I said, from Virginia, and Virginia has been doing some really great things. So shout out Governor Spanberger. But so yeah, so that the accused taken away within 24 hours. That's in policy that it has to be that quick. They're taken away. So on the flip side, and like I said, the question I like that you asked, every training that I would teach about these processes and about the SHARP program resources, there was always one person who'd be like, well, what about those who are falsely accused? And the whole crowd would kind of react negatively. And I'm like, whoa, like, that's a fair question. And I would encourage anyone who gets this question to approach it cautiously, because it is a question that at first seems like undermines victims, but be very cautious because it does happen. It doesn't happen very often, and it seems to only be brought up in spaces when we're talking about victims. But people who have been falsely accused absolutely matter, and it is disruptive to that person's life.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's important to like recognize that like we never ask that question in like any other context with other crimes. Like if we were given a podcast right now on like burglars, like no one would be like, well, like what about falsely accused burglars? Like it's like we only hear this like conversation in the space of like discussing victims of sexual assault, sexual harassment.
Interesting.
Um,
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So, but I mean, like both things can be true. We
No,
can
I tell you
support
why. I tell you why I asked it, Claire, because I'm stealing your
Yeah.
brain power. Here's why I asked
Yeah.
it, because
Yeah. Yeah.
we at the Warriors come from believe the victim. Like
Yes.
that's where we come from. Listen to the victim, believe the victim. That's where.
Always.
But I constantly will get what about. That's
Yes.
why I wanted to hear
Yes.
what you had to say
Yeah.
about it, so that I'm
Yeah.
trying to learn. I would obviously think it's a small percentage, even, right? It's
Yeah. I
not that
used to know
many
about the
women are coming. No, but they're not that many women are coming, just making this up. There are
Right.
studies like just in general about, right,
Right.
population. It's a very small percentage, but I
Super small.
always get, that question, like,
Always.
what
Yeah.
about, kind of thing. And
Every
you're
time.
right about it comes up. This whole sexual topic space
Yeah.
is completely crazy,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. It is. It is. And
It's like,
I think people are scared to
really?
talk about it, which is like the most empowering and an important thing we can do because it like cross trains people without even realizing it.
But we have to let women know,
Yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah.
and even like our young girls. When I say young girls, I mean, even like 16, 17, teen
Yeah.
girls, young women, whatever we want to call them today. I don't know the correct
Yeah.
terminology, but we're dealing with girls now starting at age 9 with sexual
Yeah. Oh
situations.
my God. Yeah.
So it's younger and younger, where it used to be 15, 16. No, now
Mm.
it's going down to 9, 10, 11. So we want to say girls, we want to say
Yeah.
teens, we want to say young women and women as a whole. But when I'm with groups of women, especially
Yeah.
young women, and I'm going to say those are women like 25 to 35. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that. And I kind of always use like a focus group kind of thing when we're
Yeah.
talking and stuff. It's like, I'm not kidding you. Almost every time, Claire, it's everybody in the group has been sexually assaulted, sexually
Yeah.
something. And
Yep.
most of them have never done a thing because they said they didn't even understand that's what it was at the time, or
Yeah.
that they said, oh, I put myself in that situation.
Yeah.
So it's that. So I'm trying to break that. Like, nobody has a
Yeah.
right to,
Yeah.
or a friend of mine does a great display. She just contacted me yesterday. She travels the country. It's called, What Were You Wearing? Because
Wow.
she was
Yeah.
sexually assaulted when she was a teenager.
Right.
And it was all men questioning the police,
Yeah.
this. And the question she kept getting over and over as a scared victim was, well, what were you wearing? It could have been that skirt you were wearing. So she
So
went on
stressful.
years
Yeah.
later to create this really interactive. It's all victims of rape,
Yeah.
sexual assault, their actual clothes that they were wearing when they were assaulted.
I know what you're talking about. There was a display here in Washington Park, in Albany. It was the pictures of the clothing, wasn't the actual ones, but I read every single one. I stopped and I read every single one. It made me sick to my stomach, but
It's
it's
sickening,
like
right?
people are so detached and like they don't realize how bad it is until they're in the thick of it, which is the wrong time to, start trying to educate yourself on what to do
Well, we
or
want intervention, we want prevention, we want
yeah,
education. It's
yeah.
that simple. So look, I think we can both agree.
Mm,
I'm going to be very real here. Like, we're not going to stop this.
yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
we're not going to end human trafficking. It really hurts me to say this, but
Yeah.
that's the reality of what it is. But
Right.
what we can do is get in there and educate, right? And teach prevention or teach awareness. And that
Yes.
makes all the difference. And then hopefully those we teach can carry that messaging forward. That's how I think, because it's too big. It makes too much money. It's too prevalent. It's too normalized in today's world, all of
Right.
this.
Yes.
And more people are doing things that would never even try things, but it's like kind of a free for all. Actually, law enforcement told me that with the World Cup coming to New York, New Jersey.
God, I know. Oh.
I remember it was almost 3 years ago, and the New Jersey State Troopers were in Washington. I was at something, and we were talking, and I'm like, "What are you working on?" And they're like, "The World Cup." And I'm like, "Oh," and they're like, "Yeah, well, it's almost 3 years away." I'm like, "Oh, that's a long time." They said, "No, we have to get everything lined up. We've got to get between banks, motels, hotels, ride shares, like everything in place for trafficking, exploit, scams, everything."
Right.
But they were also telling me, and again, recently, people coming from other places now view the United States as you get away with anything here. It's a free for all. So whether it's drugs, whether it's children, whatever it is, you can come here and do anything you want with no consequences. Now, isn't that a sad thing
Yeah.
to say about
Yeah.
our, and
Yeah.
it's kind of
It's
true,
sickening.
right?
Yeah.
Like I'm in the middle of New York City. It's
Yeah.
kind of true, you know.
Yeah.
We'll skip that for a minute. Now,
Yeah.
okay, so now you left. Fast forward.
Hmm.
Let's talk about the victims for a minute. So did
Hmm.
you dealt with them, you were able to stay on with some of them, or no, you did have to pass them on to the new person? How does that work? And have you stayed in touch, or is that like not something you
Yeah.
do? Like, do you cut them loose when you're out of the army? How does it work?
So I tell them as long as I'm alive, they have someone they can talk
Oh,
to.
I love that.
And so, and like, I mean, that's a really good point. There's not really like an offboarding type thing.
That's
And
what I meant,
I've never
offboarding,
thought
yeah.
to ask. Yeah, I never thought to ask because I truly mean it in that, like, once someone's in contact with me, I'm there forever. Just because I'm not officially on paper of your victim advocate,
Mm.
and I'm not working as a victim advocate anymore, like, doesn't mean I can't still help you. And now that I'm not working as a victim advocate, I actually am less confined in some ways, to at least be able to like give advice, which you were forbidden to do, which makes sense. You don't want to like, lead someone the wrong way when it's not in their heart what they want. But so, and I mean, and I still get messages, especially on my TikTok. Um, my messages are like a combination of like hate
Just
messages.
ignore all of that. Just ignore any bells you hear
Okay,
ringing.
no
Things
worries, no
happen.
worries.
Things happen
Yeah,
here. Okay, we're
no,
back
no,
on
you're
it.
good.
Okay.
You're good. My TikTok inbox is a mixture of like hate mail, because I do make a lot of videos like speaking out against this federal administration, and with providing resources. Like, I made a video on like SNAP resources. I did one on what to do if you see ICE officers. I like to just help educate, and recently I've been doing a lot of like, I love fact checking information. It's like super fun for me. But I've been doing a lot of that too. Like, people
What do you
people
mean?
will reach out to me and be like, I saw this thing. I saw like this thing in the news that's happening. And I'm like, let me like read the actual bill, and then I'll read it and as
Oh, good for
objectively as
you.
possible, give an analysis. I'm like the world's most boring reader. Like, I love reading that stuff.
Nope,
But
I love that. I'll tell you why. Because Claire, most people just retweet. I'm not calling it X,
yeah,
Xing. I don't know what they call it. They'll just see
right.
something and jump on it, and
Yeah,
they have not gone in there to look, vet it, or anything. Because that's
right.
what most people I know do, right? And
It's
now
so
with AI, I don't even
yeah,
know if you're real today. I don't even.
right. Oh my gosh. Right.
You're an
I'm
AI
AI.
chatbot.
You caught me. I'm AI.
Listen, somebody told me again. I totally digress because that's what I do, Claire.
That's
Somebody
so
told me
funny.
yesterday on his job. Um,
Mm,
he has to deal with the computer with these AI chatbot people.
uh,
They're not people.
yeah.
I should take that back because they're machines. That's what I teach
Yeah.
the kids. They're not real. Okay.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, the chatbot said to him, "It is time for me to take my break. You should take one too." And he's like,
Wow.
"I didn't know you chatbots get breaks."
Right. Oh my
Like,
God. You're
really?
becoming
So they're trying
self-aware.
to humanize them. So that, well,
Yeah.
we'll get into that a little bit now. Okay. So let me ask you something. So add that to
Mhm.
your list about there's never like a lot of follow up on anything,
Yeah.
right? And we know that all of this, whether it's what you've been working on with victims in the past, present, like policy, like where's always the follow up, right? Like
Mhm.
it's a
Yeah.
continual. I don't even like to say this, but it's true. The
Yeah.
trauma that people endure, right? It's really. I'm not a doctor, an expert, right? But
Mhm.
and I've never been a victim. And I've never been
Wow.
sex trafficked.
Yeah.
And I've never
Yeah.
been abused. And you know what, Claire? When I started doing all this, because I can't help myself because I have to help people, I decided.
Yeah.
I felt like I was so lucky. I was never abused. Is that a horrible
Yeah.
thing? I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know this is so
Yeah.
prevalent.
That's
Wow,
rare
I am
though.
so
It's so
lucky. I'm like,
rare.
I am so lucky. Even now,
Yeah.
the stories I'm hearing really on a daily basis, pretty much. But what about, this is a lifelong trauma.
Yeah.
And that's the problem we're having, resources for that, housing programs. It's not you
Yeah.
slap a Band-Aid on and you move forward, which happens a lot. So add that to your list that we need.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Things
need
that need to change
policy. Come on, get that on
yeah.
that vision board.
Yeah.
Now fast forward. What describe if you want, like
Mhm.
what about some of the victims? Were they just afraid to come forward? Did they just need you to motivate them? It was a mix of everything. They wanted to fight back. I hear the same thing. We're afraid to open our mouths of our careers. It's power over vulnerability. Like,
Yeah.
what were they thinking? The same kind of stuff?
Yeah. So it was, I mean, yeah, all of that stuff. A lot of it was like, I'd hear the same sentence, like, I don't want to do anything. I just want to get it on paper. That's what I hear all the time. They're like, I don't want to cause any trouble. I just want to get it on paper. And so one of the resources we could still get to them without having to launch the investigation, because if the wrong people found out, it would immediately launch an investigation and take that like choice and power and
Away.
autonomy over the case from the
Yeah.
victim. And um but they still have access to like mental health, behavioral health services. So I refer them to those services, and those were typically expedited to help with them. But some of them, like it was just sad because like I'd hear they feel embarrassed, they feel ashamed, they don't want to be ostracized, and then they don't want to be seen differently because while there are policies in the military in place to prevent those kinds of things, retaliation, ostracization, and even like gossiping, like is forbidden. I mean, who's enforcing it? You know, like first off, you have to prove it that that's happening, and then second, like it's just like I get it, you know, it's an exhausting process. But what I
Yeah.
would tell them, I'd be like, I can't tell you what to do, but you know, like think about all the people you could help if you do decide to do this.
Yeah.
So I would help to reframe it because I think a lot of people are similar in that it's easier to help other people than yourself sometimes. So I try to put it in that perspective for
Always.
them,
Always.
or like make it even more personal. And like, well, what would you tell your sister or your brother or your soldiers or your friend? What would you tell them if this was like describe it? Act as if I just described this situation that you went
Mm.
through, and pretend that you're giving me advice. And so that would kind of help them come to their own
Mhm.
terms and own decision. And frankly, like I mean, it's known that it's an exhausting process, and it is. So I think that was a huge deterrent as well, because I mean, a lot of cases I had, um, people just pulled out of the fight, which I understand. You know, I get it. It's
Well,
a lot.
that's what these
It
predators are counting on, that they wear
is
us down and we go away. So that's why
yeah,
the fight is all important. Well, let me ask you
yeah,
something, because I was reading, like, now correct me, that in college,
mhm,
no, you college, after college, you were struggling with your own self-confidence.
yeah. Oh
How
yeah,
could that be? I see a very self-confident, maybe the army kicked your, you know what, I don't know, but what
yeah,
I don't do you want to talk about that at all? Because we do
yeah,
have among our young people, listen, we have a very well documented youth mental health crisis.
yeah,
We have a lot going on right now, even from 2
yeah,
years ago, right?
yeah,
It's important, I think, if you want to share a little bit, that
yeah.
young people especially hear this, because you can overcome, or you can learn how to deal with it and
Most
turn it
definitely.
positive. Manifest positivity is one of my favorite things I try to do. I do every day. I really do.
Yeah,
Because it's so easy to get sucked in. There's so much in that hole, right? You got to
yeah,
switch to the other side and think of all the good, or what you could be doing, or you want to
right.
do. So talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I love that question so much. So I I've always been someone who has stood up against injustice, whether I was scared, whether I was alone, whether I was
I
not
love it.
equipped to do so, just because I would feel that it was right. And so where my like self-consciousness came from is I was not a good student before I joined the army, and part of that was I was not diagnosed with ADHD yet. I didn't get diagnosed till later in life, so that really, in hindsight, contributed to a lot of my struggles in undergrad. And I graduated with an embarrassingly low 2.4 GPA, and it did hold me back for a long time. But I learned it was mostly me embarrassed and scared of being rejected from other opportunities that was holding me back. I also didn't know what I wanted to do for grad school. So I have a 10-year gap in between undergrad and grad school. And so, I mean, I definitely say if someone is like struggling or has a bad GPA, I mean, try and get that up. School is so important, but it's not over. Your life's not over, and you can get around it. I mean, I was so hesitant to even apply to grad schools because I was like, there's no way I'm going to get in. Like, that's such an embarrassingly low GPA. And one day, after I let my victim advocate license expire voluntarily, I put the torch down temporarily, and we can talk about that too if you like. But so I kind of like lost my sense of purpose. And because I loved being a victim advocate, I loved advocating for people. And I was like, man, like, what is my role in the Army if I'm not helping people and advocating? So I was reading a book called The Violence Project by Gillian Peterson. Super good book. It's about gun violence. So anyone who's, a book nerd like me, just trigger warning with that topic. But um, super good book. I'm reading a passage about, it was just talking about politicians. Like, politicians will frequently use gun violence as a platform for their campaign, and then they just drop it and nothing happens. And we've been in this cycle since forever. And I was like, I said out loud as I'm reading, I was like, I could do this job better than this guy. And then I was like, whoa, that's a crazy thing to say. And I like quickly humbled myself. And then I was like, wait, why couldn't I do this job better than this guy? And so I Googled, what degrees do politicians have? And I found that some have none, which is cool. I'm cool. I'm cool with not gatekeeping it. Because education, again, should be free, and it's not until it is. I'm totally cool with not gatekeeping something, a position like that based off just education. But I found public policy. That's how I was like, holy shit, this is exactly what I want to do. I was like, oh my God, this is the advocates on paper. These are the advocates of people on paper. I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. And then I like was immediately stressed because I had this epiphany in my car in the middle of my lunch, sitting in Fort Bragg in a parking lot, and I was like, "This is who I'm supposed to be." Oh my God, my GPA is never going to allow for that. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm tired of letting this like number reign over my confidence. So I'm gonna like call these schools and talk to them. And so I ended up going to University of Massachusetts Dartmouth, spoiler alert. And my graduate advisor, Mark Page, I talked with him before I even applied because I was like, hey, straight up, am I wasting my time? Am I wasting my money? And I gave him my whole spiel of who I want to be. I told him the exact same story I just told you about the Violence Project book. And he goes, oh my God. And I was like, what? He was like, you need to apply here. And I was like, oh. I was like, do you think I'll get in? He goes, I think you're going to get in everywhere. And he was right. I got into every single grad school I applied to. I know it's like a humble but proud brag.
Do it. And
And
so
then,
like this. This is what everybody's doing in meetings now.
yeah, and then I graduated with a 3.98 GPA with my master's. I would have had a 4.0, but I got an A minus in microeconomics. So
Who's
one day
that
when I
teacher? Who's that professor? Let me at him. Or her.
right.
I
When
don't know.
I run for office, I know my ops are just going to throw this in my face. But yeah.
But
So
see, you
this time
found your
last,
passion. See how you found your passion
I
and
did,
it
I
all
did. Yeah,
connected. And that's
it
an
did.
amazing story. And
Yeah,
that's why I want you to share that because I want our young people to understand there
yeah.
is something out there. They have to find it. It's not going to, I
Right.
don't think anybody's going to hand us anything.
No, not there's
We've
never
got
a
to
right
seek it.
time.
We've got to
Yeah.
ask questions.
Yes.
We have to think maybe, I've got a lot of wisdom at my old age now, so I'm just sharing
Yeah.
it with you. But like where we start in life, if we try to plan it out, I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it doesn't take those direct. It
No,
goes in all different directions.
every
Don't
direction.
limit yourself for like, I'm going to be a doctor or nothing.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely not. It goes in all
Yeah.
different. So that's a beautiful story, and
Yeah.
that was your passion. Look at these
Yeah.
grades you got.
Right. I found out who I was supposed to become on my
Yeah,
lunch break
and
in
so
the
that
car.
empowered
And
you, right?
yeah, and
Like
it's
you were
you're
like
never,
this new person all of a sudden.
yeah, right. And you're just, yeah, and like you're never like too old either. Like, 'cause so I'm 35. I'm about to go back to school. I just finished school, and
35 is a baby. Stop it.
I know, but you know how it is. Like, I think society really makes us think we're supposed to know who we are by we're like 30, and
Okay, well,
but
I maintain that nobody even has an inkling until they're 40, but that's me.
that's so fair.
That is
I'm a
so.
lifelong learner. I love learning. I've always been like that. I just, before I joined the army, didn't have the tools or understanding of
Right.
how to be a good student
You
until I
didn't
was
know.
diagnosed with ADHD. So
Now, have you done any speaking to young people or no? I
no,
mean,
but I
group
like
speaking, because I
totally,
totally see you speaking to like a group of teens or even
yeah,
college students, just getting out and relating with them. Oh, we got to work on that because I totally see that
yeah.
one.
I would love to do
Um,
that, especially with the GPA thing, because like I was so mean to myself for years, and I let that determine my like how I saw myself, my self-worth, like and it's important. Your GPA is
I'm
really
glad though,
important,
Claire.
but
I'll tell you why. Again, I'm cutting you off, but we'll come back to what you
no,
were
no,
saying.
yeah, yeah.
That's what I do. I think it's something when you're
I know, I
talking,
love
and
it.
then I'm like, I'll forget it if I don't say it.
No, say it. Yeah, yeah.
Because it is so mentally heavy when you just keep thinking about something. It's like worse than trying to do something. That's what
Yeah,
I think, like mentally, mentally,
yeah,
mentally. And the saddest thing is there are women and men my age now. So I'm
yeah.
65, right? And they'll be like, I never tried that. That's what I wanted to do. Or
No,
I never,
yeah,
and and what I've always said to kids is like, all somebody can say is no to you, and then
right,
you move on to the next. Like all you
right.
can, at least you'll know, like you tried, you're trying.
Yeah,
And I
and
think
keep
that is
trying.
empowering,
Yeah,
right? That you
keep
try,
trying.
not just let it in
Yeah,
your brain take up free rent in your brain to make you
right,
crazy. Like, do you know what I'm?
right.
So good for you that it can be done. That story needs to be shared far and
Yeah,
wide.
I appreciate
Um,
that. And like I didn't ever really believe in fate until that happened. And I was like it was like a surreal like moment. It felt like a movie moment because I was like, holy shit, I
it's
know
like
who
the
I'm
light
supposed
bulb
to be.
literally went off, right?
Seriously. And I was like, oh my God, I gotta change my whole life. And that's that same week I applied to all the grad schools I could for public policy. And
Look
it
what
was
happened.
yeah, I know.
Look what happened. I owe you a party.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to. We work with at the Warriors a wonderful group. They're middle, high school, and now college girls. The program
Yeah.
started about 5.5 years ago. Are Wonder Girls, and it's total like
Oh,
empowerment. And the
yeah.
program they started out like high school freshmen. Now they're in college, so it's an after school program
Oh,
or a college campus. They start, and I see, Claire, just these groups of girls, how they help each other, how it truly they're engaged. Part of the process is giving back to the community. They do a lot of work with us,
yeah.
feeding people, all kinds of stuff like that. But we have mentors that go in and just talk to the girls at different. We have
Yeah.
Career Expo, mentor day, and all that. I totally want to get you there when we have the
Oh,
next one
please.
for
Yeah.
mentors.
I would love
But
that.
your message is making me excited. Like,
Yeah.
oh
I love
wow, I got to apply to grad school now.
yeah, Lynn, let's go. We can be
Well, you know what?
classmates.
I tell you though, I've been tinkering with the law school thing for like 10 years.
Yeah,
But
same.
then
Yeah,
but I have such plans, like things I'm working on a daily basis and doing. So
yeah,
I'm deciding at this point in my life, okay, where would
yeah,
I be more effective? Even
yeah,
though I would be like a victims advocate person,
yeah,
pro bono,
yeah,
with
yeah,
these women and girls. And there's some boys and men too these days with the
yeah,
trafficking, exploitation. There's a lot of that we don't even talk about.
yeah.
Um, well, Claire Yost, I could talk to you all day.
Same. Yeah,
Promise me that you'll come back though, because we have so
definitely.
many different issues I do want to talk to you about. But I
Yeah.
want you to leave our warriors, leave our viewers with um with a message.
Okay.
One, it can be any message you want, but something that will sing to them, I want to say, about service, about accountability, about showing up, about just making a difference. Because to me, you are the perfect example of you found your calling, can
Yeah.
do, you're making it happen. You're only 35. Do you know the tremendous career you have in front of you?
Yeah. I
Everything
know.
you've done behind you already and now in front of you, and we need you.
Yeah.
And we need, there are other Claires perhaps out there,
Yeah,
and so
definitely.
what message do you want to leave with our warriors watching and listening?
Yeah. So weaponize yourself with knowledge of
Mhm.
every kind. Learn everything you can about everything. It is the most powerful tool we have. Education is what keeps us connected, it's what keeps us free. It's what it's the cornerstone of our democracy, really. And it allows us to make these networking opportunities, like how Lynn and I met.
That was
Um,
weird, right? The way we met.
I know. I'm like, I believe in fate again for the second time. But seriously, weaponize yourself with knowledge, because if you have policy on your side, if you have knowledge on your side, if you feel in your heart that you're doing the right thing, then you can't be
Yeah.
wrong. And I'd say again, like in these contentious and scary times, don't forget that yes, they are actually scary and dark times. We need to not lose sight of the fact that that is the reality, because we can't become complacent in that. But with that knowledge, keep fighting. The worst thing we could all do is give up. Take a break if you need to, but
Yeah.
keep fighting. Keep the trail ablaze, and do not be bullied out of a space that women, that allies, that men, that people have fought for us to be in. Do not get bullied out of a space where we belong and where so many people wanted to be in. And you'll do great just by doing those simple things. Speak out even when you're scared, even when your voice shakes, and then just keep spreading positivity, like you said.
Yeah. Amen. At least get that mindset. But now I got one more question for you, Claire.
Yeah,
How do you take care of Claire?
man, woof.
Because
That is the question.
no, because
I
this is
know.
also something where we have to. Oops, sorry. We're just putting an
No,
arm in here to turn. We have multiple things going on here. Sorry about
yeah,
that, but it's all good. We forget.
yeah,
We're passionate about something. It's coming at us right and left. We're always go,
yeah,
go, go. People have to step out for a minute. You know what I'm saying? Or people
yeah,
have to turn it off for a minute. Do you want to share anything about that? Because we do at the Warriors work with a lot of survivors, and I have to always remind
yeah,
them, or even teens. I'll say, okay,
yeah,
you can put down your phone and your laptop for 2 hours. Like you can get away.
yeah,
You got to start weaning yourself. We're in a digital world; it's not going away,
yeah,
but you can just do that and take a break. So, how does Claire take care of
yeah.
Claire?
Yeah, no, it's so important to take a break, especially when you're working in fields that are as heavy and as dark as the ones that we've found ourselves in. You got to protect your own peace too. So
Mhm,
find I like what you said, like put a time limit on it.
mhm.
One of the best pieces of advices I ever received was from our former hospital director, Amal Shatila. She was amazing. I was going through a really tough time. Yeah, I was just, there was a lot happening, and it led to me not performing so well in some like mandatory training things I had to do. I ended up failing because I was just not in the headspace. Everything was crumbling. She, at the time, was a colonel, which is a very high ranking, and she came to talk to me. And I'm preparing to get my butt chewed because I'm high rank. She's high ranking, and I've been messing up, or I had failed something. And all she says to me, and I was a specialist at the time, she was like, Specialist Yost, you know, I failed something before and I know how it sucks. I was like, You failed? I was like, What do you mean you failed? You're a colonel. She goes, Everyone who is successful has failed. And you need to remind yourself of that, because I can tell that you're really in your head. Every person who is successful has failed something. And the advice she gave me was, you can be sad about it today, do something about it tomorrow. And I have lived by that mantra. I have given that advice to so many people, because I think we are a reactive society where we're like, oh my God, this thing happened. How do I fix it? I got to do this. I got to pause. Just take a pause when you can. Pause, protect your peace, throw it away until you have to think about it tomorrow. So be sad about it today, do something about it tomorrow, and take care of yourself. Take breaks. We need you out there. So
Yeah.
if you're tapped out, we're down one warrior. So take a break so that you, who is also a warrior, can continue to help other warriors.
Claire, that's a good message to leave us on. But do promise me you will return, because we do have a lot we need to continue
Most
talking about. Again, I'm going to thank you for your service.
Thank you for
Really,
yours as
but I
well.
mean it, Claire. Really
Yeah.
terrific. I know it's difficult. All of everything you've done, your leadership and being a voice, always speaking up for those who couldn't speak up, or don't want to speak up,
Yeah.
and just your dedication and unwavering commitment is just, gold stars all around for you. But it also, your story reminds us, advocacy, whether the way I do it, the way you do it, it takes many different, it's all different forms. There is
Yeah.
something for everybody. And
Yeah.
sometimes it happens behind a desk. Sometimes it happens, on a field.
Yeah.
But policy, that's going to stick in my head now.
Yeah.
Policy. That is
Yeah.
what can change, that can empower, that can prove
Yeah.
different things. So we at the Warriors wish you tremendous success. We're going to be in touch about a lot of different things we got cooking, right,
Awesome.
Claire?
That's right.
That's right. And I'm going to put in the body of the video. I'll have your stuff. I'll have your TikTok, what you're
Perfect.
doing on that whole TikTok with all those people. All right,
Yes.
whatever. If
It's
TikTok's your
TikTok
jam,
away.
go for it. And I just want everybody to really think about everything Claire has said here today, and take it, to heart, or take one or two of the things to heart, and you really will feel like a warrior. So I'm going to say,
Yes.
Claire Yost, until we meet again, thank you for joining
Until
us.
we meet again.
You truly are a warrior, and we love you here at
You
the
too.
Warriors. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. Existence is resistance. Keep it up, warriors.
Thanks, Claire. We'll speak again
Thank
soon.
you.